going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 19 of JD's Empire Sports Talk. Of course, JD here with you today. We'll talk the normal, usual at the end of the week for this episode, the usual Knicks, Rangers, and St. John. So all three teams will be talked about today. I think it is definitely worth it. With the Knicks and the Rangers both being on All-Star break or break, if you want to say, because hockey's not doing the traditional All-Star weekend. They're getting an extra week off because they're doing the Four Nations tournament. It's a little different for them, and we could talk about how they can come back after the 2 weeks and what that can do to their game, being out of not everyone, but some guys not playing in the Four Nations. So it's a lot of just resting up and how you could be rusty and stuff like that. And then with the Knicks, they have 8 days off or so, except for Cat and Brunson, of course, because they'll be in the All-Star game. So they got to get down to San Francisco, or I'm sure they're there already, getting ready to play in that game on Sunday. And Brunson in the three-point contest as well. So they got a busy weekend, those two, but rest of the team taking a much needed All-Star break. But we'll start with them. And then later on in the episode, we'll talk about what's next for videos and all that good stuff. But the Knicks are 36 and 18 at the break, so they've had a really good year so far. Didn't start out the best, but I think that was more so the guys just trying to gel with each other, and it was a little bit of a learning process of understanding that a guy like Karl Anthony Towns needs to get his 15 shots a game to be the best he can, and I think that took a little bit of just playing with each other, and then finally they figured it out, and now uh, him and Brunson have just they've been terrific, especially the last 2 nights, or 2 games rather, against the Pacers and the Hawks, two teams in the East that they're pretty solid. I mean, I wouldn't say they're better than the Knicks, 'cause they're definitely not, and the Knicks have showed that. But Cat went off the last 2 games, doesn't have the tape on his thumb anymore, so that's a good thing. Maybe he's starting to find his way to full health again after he was playing through that thumb injury, and you can tell the shot was just not great. So I think it was something that he needed to just work through. Probably best if he would have rested it, but they couldn't afford to do that because they really didn't have. They don't really have another center option, so I think it would have been very hard to rely on a Precious Achua to play the five and then have no one else behind him, and he's not even a center. So I think that's what that was. But overall, though, like I said, they started out 10-8 or so. I think it was 10-8, and since then they've just been on a really good, huge run. I mean, they're winning usually like four. They're winning like 4 games a clip, dropping one. I mean, obviously they doubled their record, so they haven't played. I mean, they've played great, like I said, but doing good. Third in the Eastern Conference, which is the spot they've been in the entire season. Once they started getting in their groove. They're about 5 or 6 games ahead of the 4 seed, which changes every day. Every time I check the standings, it's a new team. But currently, Pacers. But I think that the Knicks, if they could, it would be great to get that number 2 seed, which they had last year, and obviously did not work out in their favor. They lost because of all those injuries. But if they could stay healthy and have the 2 seed, that would be really good for them. But I don't think that's really going to happen. Celtics have been playing really good recently, and the Cavs are. I mean, they're obviously they're great too, but maybe the best bet for the Knicks because they have a lot of trouble with the Celtics. They played the Cavs this year only once, and they lost to them. But that was like the third game of the season, and it was really close. So I think that's something we yet to see. They play them out of the All-Star break the second game, so hopefully they come out there and they play well against them. I think they match up better with the Cavs anyway. So hopefully, if they can't catch the uh, Celtics go and get that 1 seed, and then they wouldn't have to play them in the second round. But even if they did get the second seed, Celtics to the third seed, it would just be that extra home game advantage. So maybe if the Cavs can just lose some a little bit for the Knicks, but we'll see what happens in the playoff time. You never know. You're gonna get an OG Anunoby back, which you didn't have against the Celtics last week. Mitchell Robinson is yet to play a game. They'll both be back probably within the second week after the All Star break. So the team is going to be fully healthy. Certain guys won't be dependent on as much as they need it to be, and see what happens. I know Deuce McBride suffered an injury in the last game as well, so hopefully he's okay. It was a good rest week, so hopefully all these guys can come back and be ready to go because there's not much time left in the regular season, and before you know it, it's going to be playoff time, and this Knicks team has expectations. In the last 2 years, eliminated in the second round, they need to get over that hump at least. I mean, I'm not saying they have to win the finals this year, but at least get to that Eastern Conference final, put up a fight, see what happens, and then you can and the next year you go out there and make a bigger move. I wouldn't. I don't know how they would do that, but if possible, make a bigger move. Maybe just beef up that and strengthen up that bench as much as possible because the bench is not too great. I mean, some nights Campaign steps up, he does well, uh, but Landry Shamet hit or miss. Most of the bench is hit or miss. Do same thing. He's making a lot of shots or he's not making any. So I think that's something they need to shore up. But for the rest of this year, they got what they got, and they got to move forward. But I think it would be best if I give just for the Knicks and Rangers because St. John's obviously doesn't have a break. They're just gonna keep going through. Rangers up next, but for now, my Knicks grade I guess you can give them. So we'll do um I guess we could just do overall team performance. So overall team performance in the first half, I would probably go A minus. It wasn't perfect, obviously, not an A plus. Um, an A, if there was an A, I think it would have been if they handled those better teams. They really didn't look matched up particularly well. They beat the loss to the Thunder. I know they're not in Eastern Conference, but they lost to them twice. I've lost to the Celtics twice now, so that's four losses. I think I would have feel a little bit differently, but A minus, just because obviously when you're 36 and 18, you're doing a lot of good things, and of course they are. I'm not talking about that, but you got to think about some of those games that against those better teams that they didn't get. So that's something that we can look back on. Hopefully, at the end of the season, that A minus goes to an A plus, and it's a championship they're holding up. But besides that, I think the coaching is great. Tibbs can be a little too much sometimes with the minutes, but it's what he does. You can't complain about it. I just think they need to step up more on defense. That's something that has not been great all year. I don't know why that's the case, but it has not been has not translated from last year. I know I saw a stat somewhere. It was about the defensive rating was like top 5 or 6 last year at this time, and right now they're 18 to 20. So that's a big drop off, and Mitchell Robinson will be counted on a lot to shoulder the load for them. I don't know how much he can play when he first comes back because he's been out for so long, but um, that defense should get better with him and OG obviously sliding back in after 2 or 3 week layoff for him. So I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I think A minus is a pretty good grade for them. They have done great, but obviously not perfect. Moving on to the Rangers, this is a team that I feel a different situation. I don't know. I don't know. They're gonna make the playoffs. What be the last seed to get in? I mean, you never know what can happen, but I don't see the team going far. 27, 24, and 1, 3 points out of the last wild card spot with a few teams ahead of them, but it is doable. I just think they need to start. They need a huge boost right out of the break. They need to get uh five, maybe like win 5 of 7, 6 of 8, something like that, 8 of 10. They need that because if they don't get that, I really don't see it making a translating into a playoff run. Just because you can't be winning one, losing one, or winning two, losing three. It's not going to work. That's not how you're going to make the playoffs. And I just think it's been an overall team issue this year. I don't think like in the beginning, obviously they were really good. Then they dropped off and they have not recovered. They recovered a little bit. January was a good month for them, but lately dropping off a little more. I think it's an overall just team thing. I know I was saying at some stretches the stars weren't stepping up, but not really. I don't think anyone on this team is having a great year. I wouldn't even. I don't know. Panarin has a lot of points, but he's not playing the way he did the last 2 3 years. I don't know what their plans are too. Like I don't know. We're gonna go and make another move and try to make it, or you're gonna kind of sit back and just keep the team together or trade off pieces. I don't think is going to happen. The Rangers don't really do that unless they know they're dead out of it, which they did 5 years ago, or it was about 6 years ago, with the rebuild and everything like that. But it didn't. The rebuild wasn't as long, and that's what got this team going. Maybe 2 years before it's supposed to be, and now it's kind of ending maybe more earlier than people think. But I think that they just need to get put some good hockey together. I think this 2 weeks for them is very, very good. I think they need to go back to the basics and just relax. Like JT Miller's in here now. I know he's more of the leader with his words, and I know he hasn't been here very long, but I feel that he should be speaking up. Veteran who's played here before, so it's not he's not foreign to it. Um, Well, I don't know. I mean, he could be a lot, and I think these guys like that. But I don't know how they may feel if they're not winning games and he's still acting like that. That's one of those things you got to have that team personality, but that might not always work when you're trying to when you're losing games and you're still trying to act that certain way. So we'll see what happens with that. I really don't think there's much else to it. I know Four Nations tournament. The Rangers got a handful of guys playing. I know four on Team USA. I can't remember who else is playing. There was another guy or two. I know Igor's not because he's hurt, but I think there was one more guy. I can't remember what country he's on, but I know for the U.S. it's Miller, Trocheck, Fox, and Kreider. Hopefully, none of them get hurt because we can't afford that. I know Igor's hurt. Like I just said, he's out for like a week or two, so we can't afford any more injuries. Hopefully he's ready to go though when the break's over because they got a decent amount of time off, and hopefully they can come out quick and roll. But I think the grade you can give them, I don't know, average, I guess, maybe above average. But when I say C, C plus, I don't know. There's nothing too great, nothing really bad. Like they're not the last team in the playoff race, but they're not too far behind that, and they're not too far away from the playoffs. So I think you can take those both into account. A lot of just up and down. Like that's what I'm saying. Hot and cold. Over 2 week, 3 week stretches, they look like they can beat anybody, and they look like they never played before. Like that game against Pittsburgh last week should have been a game they won. Pittsburgh had nobody in the game, a lot of injuries, and they still lost. But then they go out the next night and beat Columbus. I don't know why that has to be so difficult for them have sustain winning ways, but who am I to say I don't play? But I do think a C or a C plus you can give them that kind of that works out pretty well. But with that being said, we'll go on to St. John's. This is the team I'm still super excited about. I know there's been some people I talk to who are St. John's fans as well, and be like, "Oh, we lost to Villanova. That's not really a great loss." I feel you take it this way. If you think about they only had three losses. Well, now four losses on the year, but three coming into that, and those three losses were by 7 points or less. So that's very slim margin of losing. And now yesterday, the other day, they only lost by 2 points. So I think that's something that you got to think of it. Okay, we could easily be 25-0 right now, but if you're it's very hard to win every single game, and it's better for them to get it out of the way now. But Sunday they need a bounce back against Creighton. That can't be a letdown. That has to be a bounce back. You got to be like, okay, so we lost to Villanova, a game on the road we should have won, but we didn't. It's fine. Go home Sunday against Creighton, who's in second place. So they lost to them already. You got to get to even that series up for the year so that Creighton doesn't have an edge at the end if it comes to a tiebreaker. A 1 game lead, so that could get it to a 2 game lead, depending on who else does anything in the third and fourth place spots. But it's very important to think about. I think that's they need to get back to get to win and then kind of coast their way through the end of the season. I think they have the Paul coming up next week. That should be a game they win handedly, and there's a few other ones, but I know UConn might be next. Yeah, UConn's as well at the end of next week. So two big home games coming up for them. I think they're fine though. I really do. They're shooting. They are shooting a little better. So I think that's coming with time. That they're getting more confidence, which you need. You can't be shooting and not have any confidence in the world at making shots. So I think Davion Smith is out. So that's somebody they need to look at. And I don't know. I feel like he's out and then he plays 3 games and he's out again. Just rest him. I know Patino mentioned that he's thinking about just resting him for the rest of the regular season, which is a good. I think it's 3 weeks left, 3 or 4 weeks, depending on. I think it's 4 weeks. So 4 weeks, if he's resting, comes back for the Big East tournament fully healthy, because he has the shoulder and neck injury, and it's just not going to get better if he's trying to play. And you can tell he's not right. He's bringing up the ball, or even when he's trying to shoot, he's just trying not to use his right arm, and you can't play like that. It's holding the team down a little bit. I know they need him because he's a leader and he's a point guard and a true point guard, but Kaderi Richmond, with the more opportunities he's gotten, he has been better. His shot is coming around a little bit, which still doesn't look too pretty. It's kind of ugly, not gonna lie, but it is coming around. There's a few other things that I think his game has progressed. Defensively, always there, but just on offense, he looks like he's taking control, which is something he wasn't doing really that much with Smith in the lineup because Smith was handling the point. And I don't think Richmond's that successful when he's not handling the ball all the time, just because it's tough for him to shoot, especially when he's open. catch and shoot. He's not great at that. So I think it'll be curious. Like I'm curious, but I think it'll be fascinating to see when he comes back. Like, is it Smith's show again, or is it Richmond running it? But they're both playing it because they're both going to play together, unless they put Wilcher in there and Smith off the bench. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think that yesterday's game was a good. It was a good loss in the sense of like, you all right, you got out of the way. You're not fully healthy. This is not where we want to be just yet. But the defense wasn't great yesterday, as we know. But I think their identity is defense and getting to the rim and being tough, and it's going to be very hard for any team to stop. I don't care what conference you're from or who you play during conference season. Once you get to March Madness and you're playing a team like this, it's going to be hard. But it can also be where you see, okay, we're struggling defensively. We can't shoot from the outside. It's very hard to catch up. I know they were down by 10 plus yesterday and they still found a way, but that is hard. That is very hard to do in March Madness when those teams are the best, especially if you're because right now they're projected as like I think it was a 4 seed going into the previous game, so now it'll probably bump down a little bit. But you're playing that lower seed who's from a mid-major conference who can shoot. All those teams can shoot. It's just that they don't have the size. So if you can shoot like that, and they're not going to care about the size advantage that St. John's would have because they're able to shoot. They're out shooting them. They don't even need to get in the paint. That's the thing that can get dangerous, and they can be an early exit. And I think that's what, and also because they haven't had much success recently. I think that's why these people that are evaluating took them a little more time than other teams. I think if they had that of the record that they have to feel that they're a real team, I think that's what the problem is that they haven't had success and that it takes time with that, like to trust. Oh, okay, but in losses like the other day, it's very tough to say. Okay, all right, this team's that good, that record's great, but is it? That's the thing you got to think about. But I think they'll be fine. They're ninth in the AP poll, so I mean they're doing something right, and I think they could stack up against any of those top teams fine. I don't think they would be outmatched, but we'll see what happens. Big East tournament coming up soon. April probably depending on how St. John's does next week, end of this week into next week, we'll talk about them, maybe not. But Knicks and Rangers probably nothing. We'll see how the week goes, but I know for sure, probably in the middle of next week, we got a baseball episode coming out. A special guest. I'm not going to spoil it until it happens, until it comes out. But he'll be on to talk Yankees. He has his own social media page and stuff like that, so it'll be fun. A former teammate of mine, but we still, we talk and everything like that. So it's good to. I'm happy. I reached out and he came on. He'll willing to come on. So we'll talk Mets and Yankees because, of course, I'm a Mets fan. He's a Yankees fan, and we like to keep it New York for the most part, unless it's a big, otherwise a big game. But I think it's best for everyone who likes the show to hear about their favorite teams. Uh, the Giants, I don't know. I don't know if I can ever talk about them. It depends who would. If it's a guest that would willing to do it, and I think it's warranted. Like if they go out and make a big move at quarterback, all right, we'll talk about them. But I'm not going to do it by myself because I don't like the Giants. But with that being said, I think that'll be it for episode 19. I just hope everybody is doing well and go out there, follow the Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Like all of them as well. Comment, share them to whoever you want. Content's been going well. I can't believe this is the 19th episode already. It's going quick. But next week, we'll see what happens. But definitely the baseball one. Probably not the Jets until the week after that. Just have anything on news. Obviously, Rogers is gone. We talked about that already. I don't really want to talk about it again. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, but there's a lot of good things coming up. But that being said, hope everyone has a good night, and JD is out.